Before you buy this, a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, or this, Moët Veuve, we're about to suggest to you a bottle of champagne that is drank by French royalty at the same price. No, seriously, French royalty.
Probably produce like about 4 million bottles. But then if we go to the major players, Moët Veuve Clicquot, where they produce like 28 million bottles.
Oh my God, is that the comparison?
28 million bottles to 38,
year?
To 38 million bottles a year.
And backing it up with the wine drank by Bond. Yes, James Bond. Just don't shake or stir this because it'll interrupt the bubbles. Hello and welcome back, or if you're new here, I'm Angus, one half of Got Somme. It's a wine podcast that started trying to find you the best value bottles of wine. Make sure you subscribe or follow us on Instagram and TikTok. All the links are below. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Graze.com and Riedel, where of course today we are using the Super Leggero champagne glass. Carlos, it's great to be back in front of you or with you with some golden, beautiful wines in front of us. Of course, two different champagnes. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Yeah, very excited. Nice episode Monday morning. I mean, could not think of a better...
Shake off the Monday blues. For you, champagne, where does it rank in the tier of wines?
Very high, of course, because champagne is probably one of the only wines that you can drink for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Christmas morning, my mum, the first thing I hear when I wake up is a pop.
Oh, it's the best sound in the Christmas morning for sure.
Definitely. And we are drinking it on a Monday morning, as you said. Now, as we start this episode, we do want to preface, we do have two different bottles of champagne that we're going to focus on, but we're certainly not opposed to the beautiful Moët in front of us or the Veuve. I just think when you go to an engagement or a big expensive function where you're paying $350 a ticket, they'll always have this out as sort of like the high society style of this is a nice event that you're at. And I just think, as someone who's explored wine with you for the past 4 years in this podcast, there's so much great NM champagne that's out there, or even RM and some cheaper options from grower champagnes from the region that we've been able to explore on this podcast before. So maybe before you do spend the money here, we're going to show you two other options at the same price point. Carlos Santos, as I take these two bottles of champagne off the table, what are we checking out today?
Yeah, so today we are checking out Piper Heidsieck, a champagne house that has been founded late 1700s. And then beside we will have a Bollinger, so early 1800s. So not far apart from each other when they both were founded, but very, very different styles. So, and again, very different prices as well to start with, I guess.
Both less than $100? Both
less than $100. Bollinger obviously just under $100, and that's Australian dollars. The Piper Heidsieck just over, a little bit over 60, right?
Yeah, $65.
I mean, in terms of quality, I think that's where they are very, very different because of the style they are made as well. Piper Heidsieck is a great non-vintage champagne. And it's just been, a all-time famous champagne, non-vintage. So they actually aged the champagne a little bit more than normal. Just minimum regulation. So they go most of times 24 months. So that's 2 years when they have to do a lot less than that. Whereas Bollinger go well beyond that as well. So that's typically 36 months. And so Bollinger, therefore, is a lot richer. But that's in terms of style, yeah.
And you certainly need to be a little bit more richer in the wallet as well to afford it. We are drinking brut styles of champagne here, so non-vintage. That's what you get at this less than $100 AUD price point.
Yeah.
We do want to point out we are a huge fan of vintages. If the price point allowed it, we would be drinking specific vintages. At Graze.com, we have purchased some 2001 champagnes in the past at around this price point. But today we're just talking about when you go into a bottle shop, here's two comparables that you can get.
Widely available.
Exactly, widely available. But of course, check out the auction sites. Links are below. On the right-hand side, we're going to start today with the Piper Heidsieck.
Yeah, so Piper Heidsieck, it's a fresher style of champagne. As I was saying just earlier, the autolysis, so the aging on lees is a lot less, by almost a year or sometimes a bit more in the bottle. So yeah, the less of that brioche, toasty, biscuity, etc. More fruit-driven, more apple, that pear, slight quince. There is a toastiness to it, but not quite as much as we will notice on the second glass. But yeah, a fresh champagne, delicious, Pinot Noir to a majority, and then Pinot Meunier, actually on just Meunier now, and then Chardonnay to a minor grape variety. They're very similar blends, actually, the two champagne, Pinot Noir based. Delicious. What do you think?
I just had some on the palate. I've had both of the champagnes before. I've been lucky enough to have a 2004 bottle of Bolly, and that was pretty special for me to remember exactly where I was standing. Family-in-law's house over Christmas a couple of years back.
The Bollinger?
Yeah, it was a 2004, and it was special. Like really deep golden colour.
Yeah.
So much brioche on the nose. I remember the climate I was in. I remember the step that I was standing on at the outside patio of my parent-in-law's house. And for it to trigger that cool memory when you suggested getting this bottle, that shows that that's a pretty special champagne. And we haven't had it yet again. But what I'm saying is I'm familiar with both of them. Yeah.
I think Piper Heidsieck for the non-vintage champagne, I think it's, is really good. It's really... and then again, if we were to compare in terms of quantity produced, for example, Bollinger does produce a little bit less, probably 2.5 to 3 million bottles, whereas Piper Heidsieck would probably produce like about 4 million bottles. But then if we go to the major players, Moët Veuve, where they produce like 28 million bottles.
Oh my God, is that the comparison?
28 million bottles to 38
a year?
To 38 million bottles a year. So that's underground cities of champagne aging.
Wow.
So it's completely different, right? We're talking about still a big producer, still a major producer. I think Piper Heidsieck maybe the 8th largest. Don't quote me on that, but maybe check.
Is that based off volume?
Volume producing every year, while Bollinger is a lot less. So therefore, again, more, and it's still a family-owned business as well, Bollinger. So it's a lot smaller.
These days, when the big conglomerates come along with huge... wallets and checkbooks. It's hard to say no, and I'm sure Bollinger would have been tapped on the shoulder as a family business before. So impressive,
surely, yeah.
for them to be so many generations as
since 1800, yeah,
exactly.
But even that, I mean, Piper Heidsieck, it is a delicious drop. I think is a little bit, understated, if you like, a little bit more humble, if you like, when it comes to the other big ones. It still, offers really good value, I would say. Offers really, really good value. One
observation that I'll say from a society point of view, I think I said in the introduction that, when people buy a bottle of Veuve or buy a bottle of Moët, their sort of expectation is the person they're serving it to goes, oh, wow, well, thank you so much for dishing out to get this bottle. I don't think Piper Heidsieck has that sort of reputation yet, or widely society known for an everyday person coming to an event that's a huge deal, would understand sort of that level of finesse that you have and that sort of smaller volume. I think Bollinger has a little bit more prestige, and I think people understand when they see that bottle, they're getting an experience.
Yeah, I think...
And that's just marketing, by the way. That is marketing 101.
100%. I think Piper Heidsieck certainly is the most understated. For example, if you think of Moët Veuve, if you think of Veuve Clicquot and Ruinart, by chance the LVMH brands, which are quite big, the price bracket of those champagne are a little bit more than even the Piper Heidsieck. So I think that's why I think Piper Heidsieck really offers great value. Whereas the Bollinger, it's just I think it's a different level. As the production is also smaller, I think there's a little bit more attention to detail. The champagne is a little bit bolder, richer. And also what they do with the champagne, they age reserve wines in oak, whereas Piper Heidsieck would do in stainless steel. So therefore the richness, the texture, the mouthfeel, the bubble, even the color of Bollinger, it's all different. So Bollinger, indeed, it is a special wine. I mean, of course, they use as well, I think it's about 85% of Premier Cru wines for even just a special cuvée, which is their kind of, entry level. So it's great. It's really, really good. I mean, even for $99, just under $100 is still great value.
Do you have any interesting facts about Piper Heidsieck?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a champagne that apparently Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, enjoyed drinking. She was offered sometime this champagne, and it is a champagne that is very, very heavily invested in sustainability, which in champagne, with such big production and such dense planted wine region, they have a strong focus on that end, sustainability, which some other producers wouldn't care less.
So Piper Heidsieck, that is your sort of $60 Moët de Chandon comparable around that price point. But we are going to talk about Bollinger now, which is more comparable in the price point to Veuve. Depending on where you get it, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I should say this, but what you get from Bollinger versus Veuve, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Because Bollinger is a lot smaller in terms of production, in terms of their making, as I said, the old oak barrels, to develop a stronger character in the wines. And then, of course, those toasty, biscuity, brioche, of course, from the autolysis, it's slightly different. That's the aging on lees, but the fermentation is done in barrels, so definitely adds a lot more texture, mouthfeel, character to the champagne. So it's like you are having a Bollinger. It's more the style of Krug, if I may, because Krug it's a more oxidative style of champagne, so it is Bollinger because of that exposure through barrel, etc. So it's more on that style, or Aigle-Aurier, for instance, which is one of my favorite champagnes, as you would know. So yeah, it's a great value when you do those kind of comparison, which are, a lot more for the other champagnes.
And we are drinking them out of the Riedel Superleggero champagne glass, which, as you mentioned, Krug. In 2014, they introduced this glass. They did a workshop with Krug to find out the best way to appreciate their wines, their champagnes. Of course, a couple of years ago, we had a huge video, never ever drink champagne out of a flute. So this is more of a wine-style glass. And a cool little feature that I found out about, which is they've got a little kind of like scratch sort of down the bottom of the glass internal, and what that is to create more effervescence. Effervescent? Effervescence. Evanescence. Bring me to life. It's basically put more bubbles into the glass, and as you can see, it's maintaining them in front of us as well. So a very nice glass to be appreciating a very nice bottle of wine. But I know the bottle. I've been lucky enough to have the bottle and some vintages. But can you tell me a bit about Bollinger?
A few generations. 1800s, early 1800s, 85% Premier Cru vineyards. And of course, we mentioned about Hollywood for Piper Heidsieck, but what about Bollinger? What about James Bond?
James Bond drank Bolly?
James Bond, yeah.
Did he? Was that the sponsor?
That's not a common, not commonly known.
I don't know. I always follow, James Bond has had 3 different watch deals over his time as well. I don't know. Currently.
Watch,
I guess. Tag Heuer at the moment. I think. Yeah, exactly.
I guess which Martini.
Yes, true.
Of course.
Shaken,
and
not stirred.
Bollinger is another one, for sure, 100%.
Okay. So sometimes with the movies, do they do a James Bond champagne? Do they do would they do special vintages? Bollinger?
Yeah, they do actually. Yeah, they have. It's a really, really special house. Actually, funny enough, I've been there when I worked in Paris. Team took me to Bollinger, so we went in Jaguars.
Oh.
So they pick us up in Jaguars in Paris. There was 4 of them, and the whole front of house team went to Bollinger. So yeah, I have this picture in front in the house with the Jaguars in the front, and then I remember beautiful, very vintage classic house in the middle of Champagne, and then at the back they have this small vineyard, so you can just walk through literally at the back of the house. So there's 3 little vineyards. One is actually dead pretty much because of phylloxera. So those were pre-phylloxera old vines. But yeah, less one vineyard, so now 2 vineyards that are actually making this Vignes Françaises. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Pretty crazy. That's one. And then there's another one, which is the RD. So you probably have seen Bollinger RD.
Yes.
So,
I've seen the price as well.
Correct. Recently disgorged. So that's another one of the top champagne. Probably a little bit more seen than the Vignes Françaises, but yeah. Great stuff.
So obviously we're talking about 2 of the same, mostly Pinot Noir grapes from Champagne, the region, 2 very different brands and volumes. But just tasting both of them side by side and assessing them on the nose, very different wines. I don't want to say because they're dry wines, but sweetness is the first kind of thing that comes to me when assessing the Piper Heidsieck. What would that be?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. It's actually an excellent point because as you know or may remember from your WSET level 2 classes, champagne goes from, the Brut is a huge range. It goes from 0 to 12 grams. So anything Anything in between will be still called brut. So they're both brut.
So brut isn't a good way for people to figure out, is this a dry style of wine? Because the sugar content can vary between that range.
You can still call it brut and be 0 grams, although there is,
of course,
although there is the zero nature, correct, yeah. Although there are different names to qualify a champagne that is zero dosage, because if you are zero dosage champagne, like most of the gros champagne, Agrapar and those kind of name, they will have 0 grams of sugar. So they will want to label the wine as extra brut or zero dosage. So, that's really this is my champagne, this is 0 dosage, there's no added sugar. That's it. Whereas with most champagne, most Tanem from those big houses, when they release a brut, it will have probably about 6 to 7 grams, 8, 9, 10, 11, up to 12, okay? So that's the case. With Piper Heidsieck, in this case, it's probably about 10 to 11 grams.
Oh, wow.
10 to 11 grams, so it's on a almost borderline.
Heading out of brut.
Yeah, heading out of brut. Whereas Bollinger is almost half, so probably about 5 to 6 grams. So a little bit drier champagne as well.
Gotcha. Before we go, it is time to answer your questions. Make sure you follow us at Got Somme. If you want to join us in the studio, you can. We tell you guys when we're going to be recording, and 2 people who can make it first will be the ones selected. The first question's come through. Carlos, what is your best champagne experience of all time? Is this one you've shared before?
I probably have, yeah, with Krug, Claude Monet.
Claude Monet, of
Claude
course.
Monet.
Give us a quick recap.
Yeah, so Krug Claude Monet was a very, very special trip. I was working in London, dinner by Hessen, and I won a Krug competition at the restaurant, and the prize was a trip there. So I went with my mentor, first Portuguese master sommelier, and then we were visiting Krug, and then just before we head back to the train and heading back to London, we stopped at the Claude Monet. So it's a very, very tiny vineyard, Pinot Noir 100%, in the Grand Cru of Ambonnet, obviously. And there's this beautiful rock in the vineyard. We're sitting in the rock, myself and João, and he was talking, just how beautiful. It was a springtime. We're just sitting in the rock, beautiful, clear skies. It was kind of warm. And then these guys from Krug, obviously they were showing us around. We're having a little break, and then a van drives in. 2 guys drop off the van, table outside, tablecloth, oysters, and a bottle of Claude Monet. It was the best. When people ask me what's your favorite champagne or what's your favorite wine, it's never about what's the actual best bottle I've ever had, but it's always about the bottle that I had in the best company and the best moment, and that was one of them for sure.
Okay.
I mean, of course, it is a great champagne, a great bottle.
How much is it?
That was a 1995 Krug Claude Monet, so the first ever produced. Okay.
How much would that cost?
$4,000 or $5,000. Probably
Australian?
Australian dollars. Okay. Probably a bit more now.
Okay. It was just amazing that we've drank so much champagne together, and I don't have some sort of romantic story of traversing through vines and.
Oh. Yeah, no, I mean, look, Bollinger today is...
it's a close second. The next question I really like. Champagne / sparkling / Prosecco has become the entry drink, not entry-level drink, entry drink into an event. And I think I sort of referenced that. When you go in, there's people kind of holding a champagne. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is the best place to enjoy champagne with nothing on the palate? Or do you think it could be better paired with food?
Champagne? No, champagne, I think it's sometimes like in an event, if you just walk in from the outside, you had chewing gum, you had a smoke, you had something else, a snack on the way or whatever, and you walk into this event, they hand you a glass of champagne just before dinner. It's perfect because the champagne will be refreshing, is rinsing the palate, is cleansing, and you can have it without food as you can have with food, of course. Oysters, cheese, fish dishes, even, light poultry, whatever, everything works.
Everything works.
With a Bollinger, you could even probably go for, meats because of the natural structure of the champagne.
And last question comes in, and I really like this one. It shows us a little bit about Carlos. I know you don't have which will surprise people. I don't either, which, I drink too much. What are 3 wines in your personal collection? Do you have a champagne? Do you have a white wine? And do you have a red wine? And what are they?
At the moment, I got a couple of Agrapa, Avisoise, so actually a champagne, so very, very dry, extra brut style, Récolta Manipulum producer. So
From
small
memory
producer.
and our viral this or that video, is that your third favourite champagne?
It was up there. It was up
I think
there.
it went Krug, Aigle-Aurier, and then Agrapa.
Agrapa, well, both very different styles, but yeah, I do really like Agrapa. I mean, of course, there's so many other options, but
What's
Agrapa,
your white wine?
White wine, Redoma White. So it's a Portuguese white wine from Newport.
Sorry, I thought you were clearing your throat. Oh, no, what was that?
Redoma.
Redoma. That sounded nothing like what you said.
Redoma is in
How do you
Portuguese.
spell that? Redoma.
Redoma. With the English accent.
Sounded like you had a cold.
Redoma in Portuguese.
Okay, no offense to the Portuguese accent. Please don't get me wrong. But good luck to Amelia, who was going to be having to search that before. She would have texted you that. Redoma.
I can already see the message coming from Amelia to
Redoma. And that's a white wine. What kind from Portugal?
Redoma. Yeah, so Código de Larinho, Viuzinho, Rabigato, grape varieties. So
I've never heard of any of those, but sounds delicious. Would love to try.
And red, what do I have? I don't think I've... I have a couple of things that I actually want to open from a few customers from my previous job.
Oh, yes. Is that the wine of the year last year?
No,
Oh.
no. Homemade wine. So I actually...
You can have that one. I'll have the Agrapa with you.
Yeah, homemade wines in Goulburn Valley. So I have a couple of bottles and actually something here in Victoria as well. So from my previous job at Ferrari. Some customers, Italian background, that have their own little vines at the back of the house and, do something.
Exciting.
So I got a couple of those, just, should be fun.
And finally, I just realised I finished my glass of champagne. We would like to bring Amelia Stamos. Producer, come in. Come on over, bring your glass. And finally, this is Amelia Stamos, one of our producers. It's her birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday to Amelia.
Yay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yay. Cheers. And that wraps up our episode of Got Somme. Do you want to do the outro?
Thank you for listening to this episode of Got Somme. If you like what you've heard, please join us on our Instagram, which is @GotSome. We have a lot of fun on there. And please enjoy the reels as I enjoy making them. Comment below on what you want to see on future episodes on Got Somme. And as always, if you do want to be in the studio for a Got Somme episode, you can Instagram message us, again @GotSomme. Thank you for having me.
Amelia Stamos, everyone. Happy birthday for tomorrow. And thank you for watching this episode. We'll see you on the next one.